Funny story, I almost considered making that my reboot.
Yeah, okay. But see, here's the thing. I don't think it even needs to get rebooted. It just needed to be an add-on, and that would have been the troll game to put on there, right?
Just Game of the Year Golem.
Yeah. Oh, in the Better with Friends category, put Redfall. If you hate your friends, here's a game we can play. Do you know one of the cuts that they apparently made to one of the people that actually got cut from Wizards of the Coast was
no.
Was Mike Merles.
What?
Alex, who would you give the award to for best podcast co-host of Total Pebble Knockdown?
Definitely not Joe Rogan.
He's not on this show.
Exactly. That's why it's not him.
Oh, good. Well, hey, at least we're eliminating some people from this competition. It's great. We're in a dead heat. In the meantime, I am co-host number 1, Nathan.
And I don't think this is a numbered system. And I am Alex.
You're co-host letter A, and I'm co-host number 1.
Okay.
That's how this
number
works.
1 in number A.
Yeah, and number A. Yeah. You can vote for 1 or A. You're on the lettered tier system, I'm on a numbered tier system. We get to be equal in that regard. Thank you for joining us on Total Pebble Knockdown. Are you ready for some awards?
Never ago, but yeah, we can say I'm ready for some award talk.
Great.
Or something.
Great, because people are probably not sick of hearing about awards at this point. Yeah, let's do it anyway. Annual tradition here on Total Pebble Knockdown is to kick off the year by doing a round of Save Berry Reboot. Alex, you excited about Save Berry Reboot 2023?
Yeah, I had to get reminded of what mine were for last year, so...
Yeah, and did you pick the same ones?
I didn't anymore.
Perfect. Good news. This is the third year that we have done Save Berry Reboot on this show. The idea is actually pretty straightforward. We pick a game that we think needs to be saved from the digital archive dumpster fire, if it ever comes to it. One that we want to bury, because why was
it
this...
It deserves to sit in a landfill with E.T.?
Yes, it deserves to sit in a landfill like E.T. is usually the example I give him. And Reboot is usually a game that might be a little bit older that we played from 2023. That is one that is probably due for a revamp.
Well, it doesn't have to be older. It just has to be a game that could deal with a revamp.
That we could probably use. Yeah. Spoiler alert, mine is actually an old game. But,
well,
so,
that's you then.
That's a me thing.
That's a you thing.
But at any rate, so that's what we're going to do. And for the first time in 3 years, we are actually going to do this in the order that they are given. So that means we are going to start with our save for the year. Alex, do you want to start?
Sure. Okay. So, my save for the year of our Lord 2023 was going to be No Man's Sky for the second year in a row.
Yeah.
Until you reminded me that it was No Man's Sky last year, and I went, well, I guess I probably shouldn't save the game twice.
Right.
Even though I have multiple save games. And I'd like to go back to it, and I do keep updating it quite frequently, so, it is a... so there's a reason I save it. Anyways, in lieu of, No Man's Sky, I went looking through the 70 games I played this last year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Median Steam use. I looked, that's just on Steam. Median Steam player played like 4 games.
Perfect.
Yeah. So, we have problems, is what we're saying.
We do. I probably have about as many games this year, too.
Did you not look at your Steam recap?
I haven't looked at my Steam recap, but you have to remember that I also play, most of my game library is on, GOG.
Fair enough. Anyways, so the game I picked to save that I played this last year is going to be nobody's surprise here, probably, I guess, when I say Baldur's Gate 3.
Perfect.
because
yeah.
I have not gotten nearly far enough because I have this problem with CRPGs of pacing.
Yeah. Although I will tell you, having been playing Baldur's Gate 3 a bit myself, I think it is paced better than most CRPGs.
It is. The issue is I still get bored after a while. I want to do something more action-oriented.
Yes.
And then forget to go back to the game for months.
Yeah, this was that whole conversation people had about, like, Baldur's Gate 3 versus, like, Spider-Man 2. Where people were like, but Spider-Man 2, you get to shoot your webs around the city. It's like, yeah, it's a different style of game.
Yeah, and QuickTime events. Yeah, we're aware. Thanks, Spider-Man. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
So yeah, my save is that, because I also cannot wait until, hopefully, they release some world building and campaign building tools.
Yeah, and I would also like to see them possibly expand your character options to some of, like, maybe the Unearthed Arcana or the other races that you could play and stuff like that for character building.
Definitely different, like, new backgrounds, new subclasses, archetypes, and that type of stuff, because I would love to build a Hexblade Warlock.
Yeah, that was one thing that I liked about the game, but I would have really liked to see fleshed out, is to have more options for your subclasses or your archetypes that, you know, I was used to from having played the game and built it. So there is that. I don't know, can you play an Artificer? I don't think Artificer is a class. Or what was the other one? The one that Matt Mercer came up with was the Blood...
the Blood Hunter.
Blood Hunter, which is technically a real class.
You can always get mods for it, but I'd
like to see it as official content. I'd like to see it as official content.
Yes. Yeah. As much as some of the modding community is really good at keeping things to the, like, rule set of D&D and by the book, essentially.
Yes.
I'd like to see the Larian's take on it, because at least then it's what they envision for it and what they have the license for, so.
And also something worth noting is that while the mod community is usually very, very good, something that they can have a problem with is balancing and pacing. A lot of times they're OP, very overpowered to the other things, because they really, like, for instance, want to do a Hexblade Warlock, and think to themselves, oh, cool, I could put this in, but then they make it way too powerful for the stats, even though you're going by D&D standards, even though you're going by the D&D rules.
Yes.
But anyway, okay, no, that makes sense. Baldur's Gate 3 is a good pick. Congratulations, you came up with something that was not No Man's Sky. I picked a game for my save that wasn't really one that was on anybody's radar, which I feel like it makes it more likely that it gets forgotten. Because I'm pretty sure games like Lies of P, Baldur's Gate 3, all of those, Resident Evil 4, Dead Space, like those are going to be remembered. But I wanted to pick a save for one that is not that's probably going to get lost. Could go to the
Dave the Diver.
No, I'm pretty sure people will remember Dave the Diver for a little bit, and I didn't play it. I also didn't play it. No. Okay. No, it's also probably, to no one's surprise, it's War Tales. I'm going to save War Tales.
Oh, yeah, you did talk about that.
Yeah, because no one else is talking about War Tales, and I feel like it is one of those that I have to pull back from the brink. But if you liked Baldur's Gate 3, chances are you're actually going to like War Tales, because it is also like a turn-based combat sort of thing, and almost CRPG-like, but much more XCOM sort of tactic-based combat when it comes to your team and going out into the field. And the thing that I really liked about War Tales that I don't see very much is that they just kind of give you the ability to build like your little party at the beginning, and you're really no one in this world. You know, you come up with your backstory, but you're not really the heroes of the game. You're just an adventure party that's going out there to try and make a living and make a name for yourself. And then you expand this out, and it's not even so much about how many people you can have in your party. It's that the bigger your party gets, the more resources they need. They need more food. They need to be paid all of them need to get paid, so you need to keep money on hand to make sure that their morale. You need to make sure that they don't, start to get in each other's faces, because everybody has relations to one another, and they can start to have a bad relationship to each other, and if you hit one of them while you're in combat accidentally, it lowers their relationship status between the characters. If any of them die in combat, they are just gone. You end up with like their body, and you can choose to bury them someplace. There's like a cutscene that happens showing that. They all get their own professions. It's very open-ended in how it resolves everything. Very ambiguous to all of the conflicts that are going on in each one of the region and how you want to address them, but finds a way to keep it engaging even though it is that turn-based combat. I feel like it's just one of those games that could easily get lost in the shuffle if I didn't remind people of it. Now.
And if anyone who is wondering what Nathan's talking about, we did a whole video about how much Nathan enjoyed War Tales.
I did a video on how it surprised me in a good way, and I would encourage people to go watch that because I like to get the views.
Yes, add to the 800 plus views that one has already.
Yes, people did like that. Maybe I did actually save the game. Who knows?
Who knows?
Maybe I did. But at any rate, so that would be my save. Now we get to the fun one, I guess. Maybe it's not so much fun for us because we had to live through it. But anyway, we're gonna do Barry.
Sure.
Alex, what would you like to Barry this year?
So it was a tough call. I played some pretty shit games this year.
Yeah.
This last year.
Yeah.
But going through just that list on Steam, because going through Epic, I don't remember like what I played when, and I don't play that much on there. So, my Barry is going to be a game that came out a couple years ago. To massively negative everything. But I tried it. Yep. I tried it because I was curious how it was and how it came and how it went. And the game was WotC, Lords of Mayhem.
Oh no.
Did you play that at all, Nathan?
No, I heard about it in hushed tones over the internet for a while.
Yeah, when it pre-release for it was like hyped up, supposed to be this huge epic game, and then came out and it was a buggy hellhole of a mess.
Yeah,
and just terrible. I don't remember everything that was said about it because it was a couple years ago, but it was just huge disappointment to the community and all the players, and it was gaping holes in it.
Yeah,
I remember listening to videos about how bad it was. And so I was like, I do want to try this because it looked interesting. And I tried it this last year. And I don't remember. I think it probably came out in 2018, 2019, 2020, maybe. I don't.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
It's been a few years.
Right.
And so I tried it. And I think I put like I played it 4 times. I probably put a good 8 or 9 hours into it, I think. But like, it's just not good.
Right.
It's just... We've had decades of ARPGs, and especially in the last few years with like Grim Dawn and Path of Exile and whatnot, where you've got these big games that are really good. It was just lackluster. It was just really not great.
Yeah. Even games that came out before WotC were like even like Titan Quest, those kinds of ones. Like they are just much bigger and grander in scale and had like more to it, and I think that's why like when WotC came out it was sort of a wet fart. But also at the time it was not very optimized, if I remember correctly. It was a buggy mess when it first released. I don't know if it was any better for you when you played it, but I think
it probably had some improvements since it came out, I'm sure, because I'm pretty sure at one point people were like, the team has abandoned this game.
Yeah.
Which people always do. Oh, we haven't gotten an update in a week. The team abandoned this game.
Yeah.
It's like, no, they're just doing stuff. But like, I feel like it's not great. Even with the work they've done to this point, it's just not great.
Yeah. yeah. Wolson probably needs to get buried just so that we can forget about it and move on to something better.
I'm fairly sure the team that made that, because they were their own independent developers,
Sure.
fairly certain they probably aren't going to make another game.
Yeah. That's the thing that's so sad about games that really are not good from developers that are new, is that it's kind of like their death sentence. It's they're not going to come back from it. I was thinking about this recently because Lies of P went over really well, and that's from NeoWiz, which is a very this is like the first thing that they've ever done, and they got great accolades for having done one of the best Souls-likes ever. But if that had not done well, if that had not gone over very well, you probably would have never heard from that studio again.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole thing. It's if you're a small studio being super ambitious for your first game, maybe not the best idea. I get it. You want to make a banger, but at the same time, it's not. It happens less often than you think it does.
See also Big Huge Games.
Yeah.
Rest in peace.
What is your berry this year?
Okay, so I actually have a berry on my list that is not even going to be on my ranking for best to worst this year.
Wow, so it's so bad that you just are forgetting about it?
Well, it's because I don't feel like I can really give you... because I don't think it should have been a game. Let me put it this way. I don't feel like it really qualifies. Anyway, it's The Angler, Call of the Wild.
It's... Funny story. I almost considered making that my reboot.
Yeah, okay. But see, here's the thing. I don't think it even needs to get rebooted. It just needed to be an add-on for The Hunter, Call of the Wild.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be its own game. I started playing it, and I was like, what's the point of having this as a standalone title? This is... Just put a freaking fishing lure into just The Hunter, and you're there. You're halfway there already. This game didn't have to exist, which is the reason why I wanted to bury it, because it's not even that it was bad. I have some bad games that I played this year. I will be more than happy to talk about that in my best to worst list, but there was, no reason The Angler should have existed in the first place.
No. With how big Call of the Wild is, they honestly could have just made this an add-on.
Yeah, and it felt like if you took The Hunter Call of the Wild, but you took out all of the action parts of actually exploring the world, and you just have your character run to wherever there's a body of water, and drop your lure in and try to catch a fish, and it's like, why did this have to be a game? Why did it have to be laid out this way? It doesn't make sense to me. I literally was thinking to myself, I don't even have enough to talk about this to put it on a list. I just know that it's pointless to begin with, so why would it exist? That's why I want to bury it. It shouldn't exist. It doesn't make any sense.
So my question though, because you're burying it and you said you don't feel like it should even be a game. Was it bad though?
That's the thing. I can't tell you that it was necessarily bad or good. It was just completely unnecessary. It didn't do anything.
Was it bland?
It was kind of bland. Well, here's how bland it was. I caught a fish. They told me, hey, go to the village now and turn in your fish and get some things or whatever. I fell asleep before I got back to the village. That's how bland it was. I just freaking fell asleep.
Yeah. I got it when it came out in the hopes that it would be as interesting and fun as The Hunter Call of the Wild.
And
because I think that's a pretty fun game. I enjoy hunting in it. It's got a lot of variety, and between the moments of, it's got a lot of downtime in between moments of, intense action, but that's okay. Because you're actively doing things during it. Fishing is a thing people do to get drunk and be lazy.
And
especially if they're not deep sea fishing.
And I'll tell you, even if you were drunk, I don't think this game gets benefits from it.
Yeah. I played it and I'm like, did they update it? Because this is terrible.
Yeah.
I have looked a few times at like the Steam charts and the community, seeing how many people are playing the game.
Mm-hmm.
It's not good. There's
not good.
nobody playing it ever.
No.
Like a couple people, but Hunter the Call of the Wild, thousands of people keep playing that daily.
But the reason why Hunter the Call of the Wild works is because it's like open world landscapes, and there's game around every corner, and so like you're always in the game. The problem is that the game only really starts when you get to a body of water, but there's a whole landmass there with nothing in it. There's nothing there.
It's a little silly to have that.
Exactly. So I can't even in good conscience put it on a tier list. I might talk about it in a video I'm going to do about games I didn't play enough to really discuss, but honestly, I don't even know why it should be on there. It shouldn't have happened. It should not exist. So anyway, that's that. Let's get on to some more optimistic stuff. Let's talk about reboots. What do you have for your reboot?
Do you want to do yours first? Do you want me to do mine first, since I've been doing mine first?
I'll do mine first. That's fine.
Sure.
Okay.
What are you rebooting? Is it the Angler Call the
Wild? No. I know. Again, I think that should just go into the landfill. It goes, E.T. phone home, go away. No, actually, this is kind of a cheat because I'm probably actually getting this reboot. Is it
Gothic?
It is Gothic. Very good.
Oh.
Yeah, you got it in one.
I know you'd mentioned something. I did not know if they were... Are they actually rebooting it, or you just would like it to be?
No, actually. So here's the thing. Just this last year, they put out a trailer for the Gothic remake that they're putting forward. It is something that they are actively working on over at Piranha Bytes. A couple years ago, I actually played a demo that they put forward for essentially a playable trailer. And I got to play that. And it looked good at the time. It was an actual, like, game demo. Looked good at the time, played pretty well, looked a lot better, and played a lot better than the original game. But the thing about it is that Gothic is just... It's a great concept, but even when it came out, it was just so janky. You know, the concept though is you're meat. You're just this little dude in this big world, and everything wants to eat you. It wants to kill you voraciously. You can die easily because a mole came up and bit you. Like it is easy to die. Sometimes you'll get killed by stuff and you don't even know where that came from. The games are so old. The original Gothic came out in 2001. It's so old, they never had mouse support in the original one. It was all done by keyboard, and your inventory management and everything, the user interface was so terrible. So if you get it on Steam and you start playing it, you might not even be able to boot it up until you get a patch from the workshop that allows you to actually boot it up on modern systems to begin with. And then I had to get mods so that I could use my freaking mouse and actually have an inventory space that I could access easily so that the user interface worked and I could see stuff. So there's a lot of the world building that they do with that series was really good. The game had a lot of issues, and so a remake would definitely be good. That's definitely a series that should be rebooted. I like the idea of that dark, gothic fantasy setting where they start you off as just some dude. You're just some dude. You're not a chosen one. You have no special powers. You have no skills. Everything, all your skills, all of your stats, it's all one. From the very beginning, everything's just one down the line. You don't know anything. You have to learn. You have to grow. You have to evolve. And you have to do it just so you can survive against the lone wolf that might come out of the woods to try and bite you. That's like just a really great idea for a game. It was cool. Gothic 2 was also kind of cool. Gothic 3 I couldn't play because I couldn't even move. But the point is that it's a series that really should get a reboot. And as far as we can tell, we might actually get that at some unknown
Fair
time.
enough.
So that's that. What are you going to reboot, though?
So mine's slightly different. Mine's a bit newer. But I'm going to have to say my reboot for this last year is gonna be, and unlike you, probably something you wouldn't expect me to say, but it'll actually be Farming Sim 2022.
So Farming Sim 2024, basically.
Yeah. See, the issue is that, and we've talked about this a little bit, I think, before, but
Sure.
the game play is fine. It's relaxing. It's interesting, but there's no story.
No.
There's no like any sense of urgency or anything like that. It's missing the elements of a game that give it any kind of reward for what you're doing. The only thing you do is you get money.
Yeah.
And you can just take out loans.
Yeah.
You could just go in, make a new farm, give yourself several $1 million, not have to worry about anything. It's pretty much playing a sandbox where you just farm. There's no consequences for anything. There's jobs you can take, but like, why?
Yeah. That is the problem with the game.
Like, the only things you really need to spend money on are like seeds and fertilizer and stuff like that.
Yep.
So it does the farming aspect great, but it doesn't do the in-between things you would do while farming.
Yeah.
So like one of the things that Crave and I have said about it is that we'd love if you could combine something like Hunter Call the Wild with Farming Sim.
Oh, yeah.
So you can be like, I've just got a ranch. It's Ranch Sim,
Yeah.
which is another different game. Where, you're doing some farming, but, maybe you're also going hunting and doing stuff that way to sell meat on the side, or maybe you're raising pigs.
Oh, sure.
Or something. Or just the day-to-day thing that you could do, like the rest of the life that is not farming.
You could have Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman, but as a
you could have a little farmstead. You could run a farmstead where you put things into your little store.
Yeah.
You could have all sorts of things. You could add a story where it's hey, where these all these other simulator games are like, hey, your grandfather died and left this building to you.
I don't know what you're talking
about. Or these potions games where it's like, oh, your relative is lost and they left the shop to you and you got to keep it open before the tax collector closes it because they're not paying any of their bills on time.
I've never seen that
You've
story
played these games, right?
No, I've never heard of this storyline.
You've seen this premise before.
Nope.
Dozens of times.
Nope.
Moonlighter too. It's
Moonlighter.
You get the shop.
You get the shop.
Okay, so give it that premise. Be like, hey, you've inherited the family farm.
Yep.
And you need to make a profit, or the bank's gonna foreclose on it, or take it, or seize it, or maybe you're fighting against Monsanto. Maybe they're trying to buy up all the farmland nearby.
Joja Corp is here.
And what you've got to do is keep your farm afloat to not be bought out by the guys with lots of money, but also you can't pick up the seeds from your fields at all because they happen to be protected under law somehow.
Yeah. That's
But anything like that, add a little bit of story to it. Start me at nothing, having a tractor and thing to plow my field and maybe till the soil, and then have me work up from a small farm to having a huge farm.
Yeah.
And make it so that it's interesting. Sure. But don't give me the option at the beginning to just go, hey, you just want to take out a loan for $1 million? Because, you can. We'll just get all the best equipment, start from having a huge farm, and just hire people to take care of it.
Yeah.
It's that problem I have with sandbox games giving you way too much freedom and no restrictions that I have a problem with.
You have to start a thing where it's like you went out into the middle of the woods You found like a cabin, and there was like a few hand tools out there, and you could till the land, and you could start doing that, and then you start to realize, oh, hey, maybe I can fix up this old tractor, and that kind of thing. I'd like to think that there are some games that tried aspects of that, but never really realized it the way that you probably want it to be realized. So.
The closest thing to that kind of sandbox to me that I think has been made that I've played are actually by Frontier Developments. It's Planet Coaster, Planet Zoo, and Jurassic World Evolution, where they go, hey, we've got a sandbox mode where you can have unlimited funds and all this stuff is unlimited. Or you can make it so that you still have to deal with money and still have running costs and all of the other things, but there's no, you're not playing the campaign, you're just playing, I want to build a park.
Sure.
And I want to actually still make it a challenge.
Right.
And I want that because I want to build my dinosaur theme park of my dreams in Jurassic World, but I don't want to do it with unlimited money.
Right.
Because then there's no challenge. Then it's just a creative tool.
What you need is like a Little House on the Prairie, but do that as like a game. Do that as a game. That would be fun. It would be fun if you did it like in a period piece. That would kind of be neat too.
So that's my reboot because I would like it to be better.
That has been Saveberry Reboot for 2023. If you have any suggestions for what was your Saveberry and Reboot, let us know in the comments down below. Maybe they're the same as last year. We know that we almost picked ones that we did last year, so...
Listen, I will save No Man's Sky until the end of the earth if they keep updating it.
Absolutely. And you know what? You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
But we're going to be getting Light No Fire at some point coming up here, so...
Yeah. Actually looking forward to that. That's going
Yeah. Well, I assume that the team has learned from their everything from No Man's Sky, so they should be in a better position to launch a game, not in a shitstorm.
And hopefully, if they're, what they did with No Man's Sky is any indication, they will hopefully be supporting it for many, many years to come after they launch it. We had the Steam Awards.
We did.
Yes. Now, unlike the Game Awards, that is mostly just kind of an industry sort of a thing.
Yeah, those are voted on by a panel of high-ranking executives and such in the gaming industry.
Right. You can put your votes in, and they do weight it a bit, but it is mostly the work of the industry that goes into that, much like the Academy Awards or anything like that.
Yeah.
But
games journalists get to go in on that, and you know what? We don't care about journalists.
Even though I was one. But
well, games journalists specifically.
Game journalists, yeah. We need better ones of those. That would be great. If they don't fire them. Anyway, the point is, the Steam Awards, though, is completely chosen by the people, by the players. However, this year had some interesting things that happened to it that we didn't really expect, and probably...
Yeah, we probably didn't expect.
Yeah. But anyway, it has led to some questions about, were people trolling about this to some degree? And so I wanted to mention a couple categories, talk about them, and why it's weird.
Yeah, it's funny because we're not the only people talking about it.
No.
If you go into the Steam discussions on certain games right now, it is wildfire. Yeah. Of hate, not hate, but
spite. There's a lot of.
I feel like at this point we should question Steam making some more specific rules on their Steam Awards
would probably be helpful. We'll probably get that before next year's, just because of what happened.
I doubt it, but who knows?
In case anyone's wondering what we're talking about, there has been some talk about how the nominations were weird and probably were a bit of a troll. Some of the reasons why is, Well, first of all, just real briefly, a couple of the Game of the Year competitors were Football Club 24 and Lethal Company. And, like, I get Lethal Company just came out and people are having fun with it, but recency bias, you know?
Yeah, I mean, you can't really weight that as part of it, so.
Right. There's some odd ones. One of the ones that I noticed was an outstanding story-rich game. A lot of people were talking about, you know, you got the Baldur's Gate 3 on there, you got the Lies of P, you got Resident Evil 4, but then you have Love Is All Around, which is like a dating sim that got in there too for reasons. I guess
Maybe it's got great story.
Story in parentheses. Yeah.
Just put the story as a censor bar and put it on Twitch and call it a day.
Yeah, that sounds good. But the ones I really wanted to focus on were Most Innovative Game and Labor of Love. So, Labor of Love.
Yes.
Some of these make sense, like Deep Rock Galactic. Oh, okay, I get that. Rust. All right. I guess they've updated it for a while.
The description of Labor of Love is like the game might have come out a couple of years ago, but the developers are still like chugging away at it. You know,
it's similar to like I guess the Game Awards version of like best ongoing game. Like it's stuff that the developers have continued to work on that they've cared about.
I feel like there should be a category for best live service game.
Okay.
Instead of best ongoing game, but like,
yeah,
those are two different categories, and there should be something for best live service because there's a lot of live service that I feel don't get much
attention. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways,
but Labor of Love, I feel like it's the whole concept was to showcase more the developers of the games than the games themselves, and the support that they've given towards it and their interest in continuing to work on the game and make it better over the course of time. So, you know, some of those make sense. However, the one that actually won was Red Dead Redemption 2, a game that I believe came out in 2018, and last got an update in 2020?
Yeah, they're doing a great job updating it, don't worry.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that Red Dead Redemption 2 isn't a good game, or that maybe the online component isn't still enjoyed by people, but it's not a maintained game. Rockstar really isn't doing anything with it anymore.
They abandoned it real fast in favor of GTA Online.
Yeah, which makes them money, so that's the reason. But yeah, so it's just weird that Labor of Love is going to go to a game that really hasn't had an update of note for 3 years now, when there are other ones, even in the category, that seem to have been worked on continuously to this day. Like, I haven't played Rust, and I don't really have an interest in playing Rust, but as far as I can tell, Rust has been continually worked on since it came out, so I get that a bit, but I don't understand Red Dead Redemption 2, let alone why it won. And again, that feels like a neg, you know, to some degree.
It kind of does feel like a troll where it has not been updated and the people are just like, let's give it to them. Kind of, haha, look at these devs not updating this game that we want to play.
Yeah, or making fun of the idea of the Steam Awards in general because there are no criteria, like just anyone can vote on it. If I were to pick like possible contenders for Labor of Love, I'll actually reiterate from the first thing, No Man's Sky. You had brought that up. But ones from this year, I would have said like Lies of P, because again, that's a small dev team that definitely put in the time and the work on it. And really Baldur's Gate 3, which again has been worked on continuously for several years before it was really released in alpha and came with a great pedigree that they obviously cared about. That's the kind of games that I would normally think of as labors of love as it goes. I don't know if you have thoughts on like what you would consider criteria for labor of love, or games that would fall into that category.
Yeah, I mean, No Man's Sky, obviously.
Right. It would be that.
But I feel like we need to talk about the troll in the room.
You want to talk about most innovative game?
Most innovative game.
Yeah.
Steam Awards Most Innovative Game of 2023.
Yeah.
Which
so
I nominated and voted for something in that category, which was in the finalists.
Was it Shadows of Doubt?
It was Shadows of Doubt, which is probably a game you would love because it's an immersive sim.
Perfect. Love those. Yeah.
That game is very immersive. It is very innovative. The things you can get away with and do are amazing. And I'm not going to sit here and talk about it at length because we're talking about how the fuck most innovative game of 2023 went to Starfield.
Yeah, like I could say that the Remnant 2 doesn't necessarily even make a lot of sense in this category, but yeah, Starfield's the one that won. And I'll say a lot of things about Starfield, because I played a lot of Starfield. I could say a lot of good things and bad things about Starfield, but there's one adjective I would not use to describe Starfield, and that's innovative.
Yeah, and I was looking at Starfield on the store on Steam.
Yeah.
Because I was wondering, I went, how does a game with 64% positive reviews overall, as sitting at mixed on Steam, and then sitting at mostly negative recent reviews, I'm sure it's going to be even more outstandingly negative after this for recent reviews. How's a game with mixed and mostly negative reviews get most innovative game?
Yeah, like, I can understand if people would have said, well, this is innovative even if I didn't like it, but, like, I would certainly hope that the game was actually innovative. And the thing about it is that Starfield, you know, I've played for over 100 hours, and I can tell you that, like, there's things to like about Starfield, there's things that are definitely a problem with Starfield, but the problem is that it is nothing new from what they've done over the course of the last 20 years in terms of their game design. It's the same kind of thing that they've done. If it's anything but innovative, that doesn't necessarily mean it isn't good or that you might not enjoy it, but it's not innovative. There's nothing
Maybe
new
the
here.
innovation is the procedurally generated wastelands of empty planets.
Like, we haven't seen that before. I mean, even even in that regard, it feels like it's been done in other places far better and you know, made far better. When I think about, like, innovative gameplay, I think of things like, well, like Vampire Survivors, which is like a totally new idea that they put forward. Or this year, if it was like Hi-Fi Rush, because you just don't see stuff like that, you know.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Those aren't even on this list.
I definitely think in even doing a bit of cursory, like, not really research, because that's not my forte, but looking into, like, the discussions on Starfield's Steam page is just, most people are agreeing that it was a troll.
It's gotta be. Yeah, there was just people that really wanted to mess with the ratings and thought it would be really funny to make... Which Steam, please just show us, like, your votes, like how many votes games got for these finalists, please, because then we can tell you if it's a fucking troll or not. Right. I feel like there should be a way that they can, like, look at adjectives or words that people are using to describe certain games and then, like, aggregate to, like, what are the games where words like innovative or creative or new or like new concept or stuff like that, how often does that come up in discussion, in the reviews, in all of that? And maybe those are the games that should be put up for most innovative gameplay because that's how they're being described beforehand.
I think Steam should have a checkbox for when you're nominating games, and it should be, is this a troll? Check.
You know what they do? They just say best troll game.
They should at this point, because as much as I love the democratic process of picking awards, like picking games that the players think deserve awards. The
Right.
problem with democracy on the internet is that the internet exists.
Yeah, that is true.
Which is how you get things like Bodie McBoatface.
Yeah, I love Bodie McBoatface, though. Or Shooty McShootyface. That's always good.
So, like, in these times, if Steam had given us their number of votes, like the breakdown of which won first, second, and third, we could sit there and go, yeah, that's an obvious troll in first place. Let's look at the second place option.
A lot of them seem like they make sense, but then you'll, like, come across one where you go, wait, what? Like, I liked Atomic Heart just fine, but I don't know if I'd really say it has outstanding visual style compared to other games that again, Hi-Fi Rush exists and such.
Yep.
I don't know how to fix it. It's kind of just an open voting process, and people can vote for a troll pick if they want to have fun with it. But it does kind of degrade the idea of having the awards in the first place.
Yes. Even I think Mudahar of Some Ordinary Gamers does saying the exact same thing. It's like, doesn't give me faith in like the voting process or the Steam Awards at all, because like trash like this gets voted most innovative game of 2023.
Right. Well, you know, some people just like to watch the world burn, Alex.
Yeah, that's very true.
We should just
fire
give out
keeps
the
us
Joker.
warm.
We should give out the Joker Award, and it's like all the games that we didn't think were very good. Who wants to vote for these? We can hand awards next year to like Gollum and Redfall.
That wasn't. I don't think that made a finalist at all anywhere.
No, and that would have been the troll game to put on there, right?
Just Game of the Year Gollum.
Yeah. Oh, in
Got
the Better with Friends category, put Redfall. If you hate your friends, here's a game we can play.
Did you watch Yahtzee's Best, Blandest, and Worst?
Yes.
Where he gave I think he gave the worst game or the blandest game to Starfield.
Second, I think it was the first or second blandest game. Yeah, was Starfield.
So it's like I'm sure he's gonna have something to say about that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
If he hasn't already, so
yeah, it's probably going.
Second can win team. Let us know what you thought about the Steam Awards in your next podcast. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, they're totally watching this. At any rate, yeah. So if you are out there and you have some ideas of games that you think are actually something that has
better than Starfield,
if you have picks for games that you think actually have innovative gameplay or that you think are actually a labor of love, and we didn't talk about them on this episode, please let us know.
They weren't nominated,
or they weren't nominated at all,
because Shadows of Doubt was nominated. I was really happy about that because I nominated it, and it also got enough to make a finalist.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like it's a very small team, but like I'm sure they're just happy to have been nominated in the finalists. So
yeah, I mean sometimes
accolades to everyone who actually made the finalists, even if you didn't get the award.
Mm-hmm.
We still notice you, Senpai.
Yeah, we still notice you, so good job to all of you. But just let us know in the comments down below, and don't forget to like and subscribe when you're there. So, while 2023 was a very good year for the games themselves, which was...
A lot of bangers came out this year.
Bangers indeed. Some are saying one of the best years in a decade or more in terms of output.
Yeah, there's a lot of good gaming that happened.
There is.
Last year.
There is a lot, but unfortunately, like the behind-the-scenes stuff for the actual game devs, the people that make games, it was not such a great time. And at the end of December, we got a lot of layoffs from Hasbro. Hasbro is in charge of Wizards of the Coast. Wizards of the Coast is sort of well known for Dungeons and Dragons and Baldur's Gate 3, to the point where at the Game Awards, because he wasn't really allowed to do a full speech, Sven Vinke, who's the director of Baldur's Gate 3 and CEO of Larian Studios, took to Twitter to give his full speech and tell people, you know, basically everything he wanted to say, but was hustled off stage before the game ends.
another reason we don't care about the Game Awards, but
Yeah, exactly. No, I don't care about the advertisements for the year, guys. But anyway, Sven Vinkit, I'm sure I'm not saying that right, but anyway, in his thread for what he wanted to say for an acceptance speech, he had said, I also want to thank Wizards D&D and specifically the D&D team for giving us carte blanche. I'm really sorry to hear so many of you were let go. It's a sad thing to realize that of the people who were in the original meeting room, there's almost nobody left. I hope you all end up well. What he is referring to is the massive layoffs at Hasbro that they did. Over 1,000 people that they cut. And apparently a lot of those were in Wizards. I thought that this was interesting, actually, Alex. Do you know one of the cuts that they apparently made to one of the people that actually got cut from Wizards of the Coast was
no.
Was Mike Merles.
What?
Yes, Mike Merles actually put out a post after this saying, yes, I was laid off by WotC. Yes, I am doing fine and excited by what's to come. And yes, I have a pretty amazing circle of friends. I'm going to take a nap, then get back to work of forging the future.
Was he not in charge?
Co-designer of D&D 5th edition. Yeah. So...
Okay.
Yeah. Also, kind of big layoffs because they actually came out and just said that they're not working there. Paul Cheon of Magic the Gathering, the talent manager and the producer. Magic the Gathering game designer David McDarby. Art director Brianna Heiss. Art manager Robert Sather. D&D Beyond producer and host Amy Dallin got laid off.
So... Was it a bad financial year for Hasbro? From just that, looking at their stock prices. I can see why they probably fired people. It's because they had a $30 loss in stock value over that time period.
Right.
Which, where was it from, though, in the company? Because I don't think it was probably from D&D and WotC.
Well, and the thing is that the sales growth for the third quarter of 2023 for WotC, digital gaming revenue up 40% compared to the previous year. They were doing fine. And again, yeah, the success of Baldur's Gate 3 sold very well, and then they laid off the majority of the team that was in the room when they first started working on that game. With Larian.
So it's kind of telling, when a company as big as Hasbro cuts off part of the WotC team.
The idea that it seems like a lot of prominent people inside Wizards of the Coast lost their job, some people that are very well known, is really shocking. Really shocking that they decided to do that.
Yeah, Mike Merles, for instance, was very vocal and active in the D&D community, from what I'm aware of.
Oh, yeah. It was a good year for playing games. It was not a great year for making games.
Yeah. And as were you going to go into more details with that, or did you want to leave that for a different segment where we can kind of go off about how terrible of a year it was for gaming?
Yeah, I feel like maybe we can talk about that more in detail, because there is a roundup of layoffs that were done over the course of the year that I feel might be worth reminding people of. Especially at the end. But specifically, I wanted to focus on Wizards of the Coast because it was fairly recent, and also because it is related to the fact that while Baldur's Gate 3 was getting all of these Game of the Year accolades, most of the team from Wizards that helped work on it in the initial stages were fired. So much of that team got laid off at the same time. And what an interesting transposition between product output and the people that actually made it and where they're at,
Yeah, it does not instill a lot of faith for what is to come with D&D, for instance.
Right.
I know they have a lot of their 1D&D stuff planned, but with cutting someone as prominent as Mike Merles and the other members of that team, and members of WotC. Like, where can we expect Magic? Not that I care about Magic anymore, but where can we expect both Magic and D&D to go in the coming years? Missing like critical people that were on those teams.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see, but
it's like, what could we expect out of Bethesda if Todd Howard wasn't there trying to sell us on next-gen games?
We wouldn't have gotten 16 times the detail.
Yeah.
And I'm be sad.
Maybe we should fire Todd and see what happens.
I get his fancy shoes. Fancy boots, Todd.
You just need newer components. It's a next-gen game. You need a next-gen system to run it.
You might need to upgrade your system to play this game. By the way, no you don't.
Yeah, my 3070 Ti and my 32 gigs of RAM aren't enough to play this game.
My 2060 played Starfield just fine. I gotta be honest with you. I don't have the best of hardware. Starfield was not hard to run. Anyways, neither here nor there. Point is, how do you feel about the way that game designers behind the scenes are being treated these days? About crunch and about best practices and about the layoffs? And was there one that particularly hit you hard? Let us know in the comments down below. And don't forget to subscribe and to like the video if you like the video.
And share it with somebody like Todd Howard, or we can tell him to... Never mind, just kidding.
I still appreciate Todd for what he did once upon a time, but it's not for the more recent efforts of Bethesda. It's for what he did before. So this has been a roller coaster ride of emotions for an episode. A lot of highs, a lot of lows. We're not high.
A lot more lows, a bunch of other lows.
That would make you want to get high, I guess. Because
gonna go do that right now. Nope, can't talk about that. That's not legal.
It's medicinal. Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. Alex, if people wanted to get legally high and wouldn't see something online, where could they find our content?
I don't know about the first part of that, but if you want to find out more of our content, you can go to totalpebbleknockdown.com.
It's good regardless of how inebriated you are. And
it's probably even better if you...
Yeah.
I don't know. Just like that stuff.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? Anyway, in the meantime, though, feel free to check out our Patreon when you go over there, and you can see some of our early releases and some of our additional footage that we have. You can also check us out on every podcast app known to mankind, and you can find us on the ever expanding wasteland of social media. I am at Titanium.
I am at EXP Limited, and our show is at Pebble Knockdown.
Check us out over there if you get a chance. We'd appreciate it. And with that said, I think it is time for us to beat feet out of here. So that's a phrase, right?
Sure, we're gonna go with it. We're not gonna comment on it.
Great. Perfect. Alright, so we will talk to you next week about something game-related. Probably games we played. It's likely something we're gonna do.
Something we do occasionally.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Who knows? You'll have to tune in to find out. Until then...
Don't touch that dial.
Well, I mean, you can touch the dial for a week or so.
For volume only.
Yes. Turn up the radio.
Turn it up.
If you could play this on the radio. I wonder if anyone listens to this on the radio.
I don't think anyone does. Anyways, we will catch you in the next one.
Bye now.
Bye.